Hello, everyone, and welcome to another interview episode of the Primal Trust Academy and Community. Today, we have with us Nicky Hooker, who is from England, and she has a beautiful story of transformation, of healing from chronic illness and other patterns. She has used different modalities of brain retraining and nervous system regulation, and has also been through the Primal Trust process. She has a beautiful story. I'm really happy to have you. So welcome, Nicky, to the interview series.
Thank you very much.
So I would love to have people hear a little bit about where you began. I first met Nicky over the phone 3 years ago. We didn't coach together at the time. We just had a consult, and you were in a dire condition. You were really struggling and wanting help. And we had a brief phone call. And I remember you wanting to know what you could do to get better. You were already doing brain retraining. So why don't you give the listeners an understanding of where you've been, what you've been, and how we kind of came together, and we'll go from there. So tell us a little bit about your backstory.
Okay, so I'll start by telling you that I am 46 this year, and I first became chronically ill when I was 17.
Wow.
So I now know that I had Epstein-Barr virus at that time. I didn't know that for many years, actually. And then really from that point, I was never really felt fully better for, unfortunately, a few decades. And during that time, I developed other conditions as well. So food sensitivities, quite a deep anxiety, periods of depression, amongst other things like light sensitivity, motion sensitivity, and insomnia, those types of things. And then over many years, tried lots of different things, going to see my medicine doctor, my general medicine doctor, going to see homeopathic doctors, acupuncturists, hundreds of different types of diets. Now I've just lost track over the years. And then probably about 12 years ago, after the birth of my second child, I came across brain rewiring, and I knew that I'd hit on something really true. I found out that we can get stuck in a trauma response, we can get stuck in a fight, flight, or freeze response. And I knew that this was what I wanted to know more about. And so I did embark on a brain rewiring program. And that had lots of positive effects for me. I think one of the biggest positive effects was just that feeling really of understanding and awareness of what was going on. And it did have lots of positive effects for me. So I was able to really, for me, I found that I was using it really as a management tool. So it was able to kind of help me more in my day-to-day life to really edge my way out of the anxiety patterns that I was in. But it wasn't fundamentally changing kind of the deep fatigue that I'd experienced. So my main symptom was chronic fatigue. And yeah, I wasn't really seeing any big shifts. And then met lots of lovely people already along the way. And one beautiful lady that I'd met had spoken quite a bit about you. And so I thought, well, I'll give it a go. I think there's more that I need to look into. Something was missing. Something was really missing for me. And we chatted. And I remember that one of the things you mentioned on that phone call was we talked about brain rewiring. And you'd said that a lot of people did come to you that had been doing brain rewiring programs for some time, but were finding that they weren't really getting the big changes that they wanted. And one of the things I remember that you mentioned was, as part of that brain rewiring process, we have a creative element where we visualize. And you mentioned about, you gave me some tips for that, which had such a huge change for me in the way that I'd been doing the brain rewiring for a long time. So yeah, that's where I found you.
Could you describe, because I know there's so many people listening who have been doing brain retraining for a while, and probably many listeners who haven't, but what was the difference? I mean, you did brain retraining for years. Like, that is not common. You kept doing it. How were you doing brain retraining? And after our conversation, what shifted for you? What was the difference so that people can understand what you were doing with your first way of doing brain retraining versus after we met?
So yeah, how I was doing it before was quite regimented. That's how it had been recommended. It was super structured, and there seemed to be quite a lot of rules about how to do it. And I think what had happened to me, and I've heard this from other people who have had a similar path, is that can almost become have the opposite desired effect. And after talking to you, you said a couple of things to me. One of those was you recommended to really bring in my authentic, truthful self into those visualizations. Whereas up until that point, I'd been going for just elevating my emotional state, just to feel nice, to feel pleasant, to feel happy. But by bringing in that authentic element of myself, so those things that I'm passionate about, those things that, that are unique to me, that give me the best possible feeling in the world. And for me personally, I'd come from, before I was 17 and just for a short while after that, from a performing background. And so when I brought in visualizations of performing on stage again, it was very emotional because it was something that my heart still desires. But what it did was it enabled me to really touch on my truth, those true elements of myself that unfortunately had been left behind. And bringing that into my visualizations took me to a whole nother level of elevating my emotional state. And coming out of those visualizations and then back into my everyday life, I felt so different, really, really different.
I loved watching you from a distance for a while start to transform. We didn't coach together, but I did keep in touch with you, watching you take on this new way of doing brain retraining. And it was so beautiful. And I'm really glad you're highlighting this, because we're doing brain retraining, and a lot of people do that to calm down their body and get their symptoms to go away. But really, the real reason for doing it is to remind yourself all the way down into every single cell who you really are, so that your cells can return to the frequency of you. They can respond like you. It's not about calming down as much as it's about returning to that vibrant, authentic self. And I love that you've described how that was a different brain retraining than what you had done for years of just calming down through mood elevation. It's one of the biggest issues I see in the brain retraining world, where people miss this point of why to be doing brain retraining.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so that was a few years ago, and you started changing how you did brain retraining. And so take us a little bit on the journey of how you went from looking for the true self, imagining the true self, and then you get involved in Primal Trust in my work. And how did things shift from you with that?
So I think for me, the Primal Trust course is full of so many elements that lead you to your authentic self, lead you back to that truth of who you are, and I even feel a bit emotional now just thinking about it, because regardless of what all my symptoms were, and I still do have some symptoms, more than anything in the whole world, I just want to feel like me And that's not, you know, and I don't even mean physically, I just mean in my heart. To be in a room of people or in a social situation or at work where I can feel safe enough to show me as I truly am. And the elements of the course and the elements of Primal Trust all lead to that. And what I love about the course that you say so many times that's so different to the other brain rewiring courses that I've done is that there's no hard and fast rules. You absorb all the information in that's offered to you. You absorb your profound knowledge, your expertise, these recommended tools, and you take in what you need. You take in what you need at the time. You take in what you need personally, because it might be that not everybody needs all of it, but and consciously you might even not even know what you need, but subconsciously in your heart and your soul you are drawn to what you require at the time. And I can honestly say that I'm not very good at doing homework. That's not really how it worked for me. I would come to your classes, I would listen like with my eyes wide open. I'd come away thinking, wow, every single time, and think, yes, yes. And then I'd kind of scribble away a bit with the homework, and then I'd run out of time because, you know, I'm a mom and I've got kids and I work, but something was happening. Something was going on. And I'd be on the course with lots of different people that are handling this all differently, you know, taking the course differently. Some people are doing everything. They're going to lots of the other recorded sessions. They're going to lots of other classes. And that's what they need for them, or that's what's fitting into their life. And there might have been a time when I compared myself to those people. You know, I thought, oh my goodness, am I ever going to be able to heal or recover without doing what they're doing? Surely I need to go to everything in order to be able to get my life back. But I've realized that just by being present, and I say this to so many people actually that I talk to, for me, just by having an awareness of the information that's being provided has been life-changing for me. And even now, sat here talking to you, I don't think about it that much. My life's just changing and my life's happening without overthinking it. And the other thing I love about this, different to other brain rewiring programs, is, which is what I meant to say actually, is that you say, this is for you to make it fit for you. There's no hard and fast rules to the brain rewiring either. You know, you give us a few different versions, and then there's some other tools, and I find that I can pull bits of those together for what feels right for me. And I think that has been the key for me.
I love that. Yes, we have a process in Primal Trust where we talk about awareness, then getting into the body, and then being able to choose a different way. And some people go about that process with doing every little thing they're told, and they want all the structure, and they do all the things that I recommend. And yeah, what I say for everyone, at the very least, just listen. You're changing by just listening. And so I love that you've been able to speak to that. And now here you are, you're working full time, you're out there living, you're doing things. Tell the audience, what is different in your function now versus a handful of years ago?
So, do you know, even over the last couple of days, I've thought to myself how dramatically different I feel on a day-to-day basis. So I just feel like this cloud of self-absorption, fear is lifted. Hours and hours and hours spent worrying about me, worrying about fixing myself. And now I'm just getting on. And so a few things that have changed for me now are, so as you mentioned, I've gone from working part-time for the last 12 years to now working full-time and being able to contribute more to the household financially. I never used to like opening letters that came through the door. I wouldn't want to know what was in those envelopes. My husband did all of that. Now I'll open my envelopes. I finally picked up the phone and sorted out my pension the other day. Now I haven't wanted to do that for years because, you know, I hadn't developed my adult main personality enough, that adult side of myself, that felt like something that I could do. I haven't performed on stage for about 9 years, and I joined a choir, a local choir at a theatre around the corner from where I live. And I feel emotional thinking about this as well, about 3 months ago, I actually performed on stage again for the first time in 9 years. And there were parts of me during that time, during that performance, that didn't want to be there. But my strength in my adult side of myself was so much more dominant that I did, and I stuck it out, and it was the most incredible feeling. And what has happened now is that I know I can do it again. So that big barrier that was there, that big wall and that belief that I would never perform on stage ever again due to fear, has gone. So watch this space over the next few months.
Yeah.
On another amazing level, I just enjoy socializing again as well. And just last weekend, I went out on the town with one of my friends, and I had the most amazing time. I was 100% myself. Wow. I was laughing, I was silly, I really enjoyed myself. And this weekend, actually, that we've just had, I went away on a big weekend with lots of other adults. And there was a voice in the back of my head at one point that said, I feel small, you know, there was that little voice again. I can't do this. I don't feel like I fit into this adult world. And I just listened to those thoughts, and then I just put them to one side, and I said, no, I am an adult. I can do this. And I had a whale of a time. And I was completely 100% myself again. A whole weekend away with lots of other adults, having an amazing time, laughing, eating. So lots of things like that, just endless things like that.
I love this. And for the people listening, like, this is almost 30 years of illness. And can you imagine the identity of illness that probably had taken over? And what you did, what you're describing, is you carved yourself back. You carved neural pathways. In fact, you weren't ever even able to be an adult. You got sick at 17. So you had to create an adult main personality brain state and really get in touch with what you love based on what you knew when you were younger. And you're in that process of continuing on with that. And that's why I love doing these interviews of those of you in process where you've made leaps and bounds of gains, and we're catching you right as you're like starting to fly and showing people like what transformation looks like in process. And you're such a great example of that. So for those that are on the journey, what tips do you have for them that might, relate to being sick for so long and having tried everything? And, what do you have to say to people who, if you could talk to yourself 5 years ago, you tried everything, been brain retraining for years, still stuck, what would you say to yourself that you learned that helped you through?
Well, I know now that I can notice somewhere kind of down here, just in the pit of my stomach, if there's a light glowing or not. And
I love that. If there's a light glowing or not in the stomach. Okay. Love that visual.
Yeah. And if I can tune into that now, and if that is like a flame, if that flame's burning really small or barely at all, that tells me that I need to tune into me. I need to listen to my heart and to my soul, because that's my authenticity there. That's my truth. That's the reason why I'm here on this planet. I'm there for that flame to burn really, really brightly, and to not be afraid to let it burn really, really brightly. And you know, I would love to really speak to other, to lots of people out there, and definitely to those who are, you know, parents who may find that there isn't time to invest in yourself when you're so busy being a parent, you're so busy, you know, wanting to look after your household and to bring money in. And I didn't think it was possible. You know, I felt that after a few years of doing brain retraining that I would have to wait. I would just have to wait until my children had grown up, and that, you know, I would have some time. And Primal Trust has, and I've explained how I did Primal Trust. I just let myself into it. I let myself listen. I invested in that time to listen and to begin to have that awareness. And because of that, my flame is burning brighter. And I am so pleased to be able to say that it is possible to regain your life, even if you feel like there isn't the time, or that you've tried for so long and that nothing's going to work. Just keep listening to that truth, because it wants to come out, and it's much, much harder and more exhausting not listening to it.
I love what you just said there. I'm going to repeat that. It is much, much harder and more exhausting not listening to that truth inside of us. The energy it takes to keep our flame squashed by staying in protection, and worry, like the amount of energy it takes to worry it's a lot. So that's really beautiful that you pointed that out. Keep going.
Well, yeah, I would say, if you've tried a lot of different things, if maybe you've already tried brain rewiring and things aren't quite shifting for you, then I would say it's because you're not doing it in the way that it needs to be done for you. And what Primal Trust does is it allows you to adapt it to what you need. So it, as I said before, it gives you lots of information, lots of tools, lots of knowledge, and trust that you will take in what you need for you. And don't look for results. Don't look for change. Just feel it. And the feelings will guide you to where you need to be.
It's so beautiful. I wish everyone that is taking my program would listen, because I do give a fire hose of information, and it's not meant for everyone to do it all, but I'm trying to speak to many different people and many different ways of applying the tools. And I usually say, just listen to the program the first time around, and then come back through and then choose what tools resonate after listening and getting that shift in conscious awareness. And what you're describing is even the process of listening resulted in transformation, what resulted in you realizing, you know, who you are and letting that lead your visualizations, letting that lead your choices, being like, oh, I've got to create an adult main personality and live my day from an adult perspective rather than from this illness consciousness. And I've watched you, I've loved watching you grow up before my very eyes in the last year. It's really beautiful. Okay, let's see. We just a couple more minutes. if you were to say what you wish you would have done differently, in a nutshell, what would that be on your journey?
Do you mean with primal trust, or just
With brain retraining and maybe with primal trust, like what are the words of wisdom of what you would have done differently?
do you know, I was just thinking about something that I hadn't mentioned that I wanted to, and that does answer that question,
Okay,
which is
perfect.
primal trust. One of the biggest things that primal trust does is it says, it's okay. Whatever you're feeling right now, whatever's going on right now, you're okay. And all the brain retraining that I'd done before missed that bit for me. It missed how simple that thought is and how powerful that thought is, regardless of what's going on physically with your symptoms or mentally with your symptoms. To just know in that moment that you're okay is sending such a powerful message to your brain and to your body. And that is one that I use every single day. And I think probably one of the most powerful things that has had such an effect for me. And you know, if only I had known that many, many years ago, I could have done things very, very differently. But then lots of things that have happened wouldn't have happened in my life.
Yeah.
And I possibly wouldn't have met you and wouldn't be doing lots of things that I'm doing now.
Yes. It always is for a greater purpose. But I love what you've said, which is you're describing that you learned what self-assurance actually means. We tend to go into these programs thinking that self-assurance is getting our symptoms to go away and and like talking ourselves into something that's not actually happening. And instead, primal trust is about, okay, even though I feel this pain or this flare, I have this innate okayness in this moment as well. You're sending signals to your cells of safety despite having inflammation or infection. And when the cells have safety signals, they're actually able to fight infection. They're able to resolve inflammation. And it's this real mind trip, this real quantum leap of finding okayness in the not okayness, finding a sense of keeping your fire in your belly glowing like you described, even though you feel off. That is the neural pathway we are trying to carve in primal trust, and you've done it. Well done.
And the other piece of that is that you're telling yourself and your brain and your body and all your cells that you are okay with this, and you don't need anyone outside of you to make you okay. You don't need to reach for someone else. You don't need to be codependent on anyone or anything. You've got this. You are safe just as you are. You have got the power within you. That is the most that's the most powerful and empowering thing on this course.
I love that. I got chills. That alone, if people could just listen to that last sentence and really have that be their mantra, they would heal. They would self-heal and transform. It does wonders for the body. Thank you so much, Nicky. So give us a little idea of what your goals are of this next year so that we can see what's in store for you. What life are you creating coming up this year?
Oh my goodness, so many different things. Well, I'm training to be a yoga nidra teacher at the moment. So I'm following my heart, my intuition, and who knows where that will go. Maybe I've had a few business ideas. I want to learn to paddleboard because all my family do it. So I'm going to go and have some lessons for myself. And I will certainly be performing on stage in the next few months. And I want to travel. I want to spread my wings and travel. And I have already got a few trips booked.
Ooh, wonderful, wonderful. I love this. I love this stage of watching people emerge from their cocoon of transformation, spreading their wings and starting to fly. And, It's never perfect. It's still a process of being okay and emerging into the world. But you are such a beautiful example of the courage, the resilience, the valor of living primal trust and living your truth. So thank you so much, Nicky, for taking this time to share your journey with all of us. I know it's going to be so inspiring. You left so many golden nuggets of how to approach the healing process. Any last words?
Thank you. I just want to thank you. And I've seen your transformational journey as well over the last few years and continue to see that. So thank you for, for spreading the word and sharing your knowledge. And I know that you do it from a place of love.
Oh, thank you so much. All right. Well, everyone, thank you for listening. And thank you, Nicky, for being here.